All right, I'm very excited to be introducing our next panel, which is Scripted for Justice. Two women rewrote the rules when they founded the Justice Law Collaborative. Not only am I very much looking forward to this one, I feel so fortunate that we have Sophia Lingos, who is leading this discussion. A little bit about Sophia. I can go on for a couple days if I gave her all the accolades she deserves, so we're going to keep it brief. Sophia is the founding and managing attorney of Trident Legal, a Boston-based law firm that provides innovative transactional legal services to small businesses, entrepreneurs, and startups in diverse industries throughout all stages of growth. Professor Lingos, fortunately for our NUSL students, teaches law practice management and access to justice. She also serves as the business law and practice management advisor to Lawyers for Affordable Justice, the collaborative legal incubator between NUSL, BC Law, and BU Law. Sophia is an advisor for the Brown Forum and is a past president of the NUSL Alumni Board. She's earned many well-deserved awards over her career, and we are so happy that she is going to be leading us in this discussion today.
Thank you. Well, thank you so much for your time and thank you to all of the chairs and all their hard work for this amazing conference they put on. I don't know if you realize, but starting tomorrow, next year's chairs are jumping in, and that's why we are at year 18, where if you come back every year like I have, you are going to find a different conference every year. It is very unique and amazing, and it's so wonderful. So thank you all for all your hard work, and Miel and their whole team, and the Dean for having us. I feel very fortunate to be sitting here with these two amazing law partners who are also alumni who founded Justice Law Collaborative together. Their bios are way too long to get fully into, so I'll give you a quick introduction and then direct you to their site and many of their good works. And one wonderful thing is we're going to learn a lot about them in their conversation today. But briefly, Kim is a nationally recognized trial attorney and focuses on catastrophic injury, sexual assault, civil rights, trafficking, institutional abuse. In addition to her law degree, she has a master's in social work, which has really helped inform her trauma-based, trauma-informed work and client-centric approach. Throughout her career, she's built a remarkable reputation and has deeply meaningful cases and continues to advocate for systemic change. And we're going to be hearing about some of that work today. Paula has dedicated her career to representing individuals who have harm caused by corporate misconduct, defective pharmaceutical products, medical negligence, and medicine failures in the reproductive world. A lot of her work focuses today on fertility litigation, IVF-related fraud and negligence, and she continues to lead some really amazing, groundbreaking work in this area. She's widely respected for taking on extraordinarily complex cases and helping her clients navigate some of the most difficult moments of their lives. So we are going to dive into a conversation that's going to give us an opportunity to figure out where they came from, how they've gotten to where they are, and how this amazing partnership came to be. So I'd like to start at the beginning. Really, what initially drew you both to the legal profession?
No, you go. So I always had interest in law and psychology. In college, I was trying to figure out where do I go from here. I majored in psychology and did a free law program as well. And so I decided I would try social work first. I was thinking PhD program will take too long to see clients. Columbia had a program where day one, 3 days a week, you were put right into the field. And the academic portion of it was Tuesday, Thursday, 8 to 6. So I said, well, I'll figure it out pretty quick whether this is it or not. And so my second year, I had the opportunity to choose what I was going to do. And I worked within the Manhattan family courts on child protective cases as the social worker on an interdisciplinary team of lawyers. And it was there that it became fairly clear that social work was meaningful and it helped individuals, but there were macro level problems that you need a law degree to change. And so that led me to look for where's my law school where I can learn how to do that. And obviously Northeastern was top on the list with its public interest work. And also the co-ops, an opportunity to just sort of get out there and learn what you wanted to do. I got involved in the domestic violence clinic, and ever since then have been working on some form of, sexual violence, some sort of abusive types of cases, where there's institutional failures, where they kind of turn the blind eye and allow such horrible things to happen to children and adults. And that's sort of how I got to Northeastern and led us on to then how do we, I'm not going to go too far in the future, how do we effectuate that change that I saw that needed to happen as a social worker? Litigation was one of the pieces. Legislation was one of the pieces. Policy change, another piece. And that's a lot of what I've learned at Northeastern and then sort of started to implement throughout our career.
Thank you. Mine's not so inspirational or altruistic. My undergrad degree was in hotel restaurant management, and I love food, I love restaurants, and I was running restaurants. And, you have to have a lawyer if you have your business. And my lawyer was a complete knucklehead. And I was paying him a lot of money, and I thought it'd be really cool not to work on weekends. So I went to law school, and here I am with a full to-do list tomorrow. But I always did consider law. I'm first generation, my family, to even go to undergrad. And so I knew how to work. I was out of school before I went to Northeastern for a few years. So I knew how to work, and I wasn't sure if I was actually, could I remember how to study and go to class and all of that. So Northeastern, when I came and did a tour, I fell in love with it. And it was the only tour where the tour guides actually enjoyed their time here. And I thought the co-op was awesome. I'm like, I know how to work. I can do that. And then I loved my time here, absolutely loved my time here. I took a class with Judy, and I think it was one of her final classes with Gina. We helped start all of this in 2001. And I also took a class with Dick Daynard, and he was teaching mass torts. And I was, what the heck is a mass tort? And I loved the tobacco litigation. I loved what he was doing on, like Kim said, he was making societal change through litigation. And I actually I did a lot of tobacco litigation following law school, and tried a number of cases against Philip Morris and R.J. Reynolds for targeting kids specifically. So yeah, a lot of my love of mass tort and standing up for the little guy came from right here.
Thank you. I have a question. If they keep the microphone, can you hear me? This is my classroom, and I do operate in this room often without one. But if you can't hear me in the back, let me know. Fantastic. Are there any other experiences that you just gave a great reason why you came to Northeastern and background, but any other experiences you want to share during your time at Northeastern that has really shaped where you are and what you do now?
Yeah, I think Paula kind of hit the nail on the head in terms of just the culture and the environment and the idea that social justice is important and that change is important, and that we, even as little law students, had some ability to do that. It was like a way that we were empowered. I worked in the domestic violence clinic, and that was incredibly, just incredibly moving. I worked with these women who were going through the most horrific situations with their spouses and their children. I actually heard from a mother of one of my clients about 5 years ago. She had passed away, my client, and she just wanted to call me to tell me how important it was and critical the work that we did through the domestic violence clinic at Northeastern to get her into a safe place, get her kids into a safe place, so that when she was passing from cancer, her kids were safe and she knew that they had become young adults that she had hoped that they would become. And it's like everyone has a story like that from Northeastern, right? Like everybody's had an experience. If you delve into it and you use what's here and at your fingertips, you will have those sort of experiences that stay with you and become a part of who you are and what you want to do with your life, because you know you're impacting people so much who are in the most, devastating moments of their lives. And so for me, that was a big piece of it, continuing on with sexual assault, physical assault, abuse cases into the future. And it's really had a long-lasting impact on what I'm doing today. So
I guess it was a co-op. I did a co-op with an immigration firm, and I actually, as a third year, got to go into court and argue for a woman that was seeking asylum from Africa. Her family had been killed. It was part of the Hutu-Tutsi wars, and in Uganda and the surrounding areas. And I fell in love with her, and being able to give someone a voice who did not think she had one. And she's still here in the United States, and ICE hasn't found her yet. But it was so empowering, and it was awesome. Just even being a student and having that opportunity to speak up for someone absolutely gave me something I wanted to continue to do, and that was be in court and be a voice for the voiceless.
Excellent. So you both went on, before you became partners, to have very early impressive careers. Can you tell us a little bit about stepping out of these doors and into kind of your first profession in the areas of law and what that looked like? Okay.
Well, Kim and I graduated in 01. Kim was 03. I started at Robinson and Cole. It was a big defense firm with a very small plaintiff side practice. It was like 8 or 9 of us, and we were doing mass tort work in the pharmaceutical, fen, PPA. Loved it. And then Kim came as a summer associate, and I grabbed her. And she, yeah. So we both, one of our very first cases as baby lawyers involved a 2-year-old boy, and it was first case landed on my desk. 2-year-old boy, perfectly healthy, took a cough and cold medication and had a massive stroke, and became partially blind, completely disabled, and we got that ingredient off the market. And now, because of all of that litigation, we got to change the rule that kids under 12 don't get cough and cold medication because of their brains developing, and this medication causes blood pressure spikes. Wow. So that was one of our early. That's when we kind of fell in love.
Yeah. An example of elevating your voice, right? An opportunity to really make change that is lasting and goes and affects so many today.
Yeah, absolutely. And so Paula was my mentor when I was a summer associate, and of course it was easy to want to be like her, right, and do what she was doing. And I was very much inspired by her and our practice. And we had some really great mentors there as well. Our colleagues who let us literally run off to experts and depositions and all over the place at really, young ages that you would never really expect. So we took full advantage of that and took every opportunity we could to go across the country and represent people. The fen cases, obviously, that drug came off the market as well. I think through litigation, hitting them hard in the pocket. With PPA, it was the same. I worked on another device called Escher. It was a contraceptive that also came off the market. It actually didn't work as a birth control mechanism and migrated, and oftentimes, unfortunately, they would get pregnant, and then the migration would kill the baby because it migrated into their, it's awful stuff we do, but really important work. So that came off the market. And then I would say in terms of like one of the earlier career cases that I worked on, you all might remember New England Compounding Center. Yes. That awful situation where they were just all profit first, not patients, and over 70 people died from fungal meningitis, which is one of the most horrific diseases you can get. It literally attacks your brain. Our clients would talk about the pain, screaming they would hear down the hall of their parent or whomever it was who was dying from the most horrific disease. Over 800, and this is across 20 states, fell ill. Obviously, we shut the facility down. Involuntary manslaughter charges were brought. They were put in jail, because, as they should be, criminals. But, one of those things was, how can we, and as baby lawyers are early in our career, do something different that makes a difference? And I, at that time, thought outside the box. And I'm like, let's go in ex parte for an inspection of the facility and preservation of evidence. I had a case that was referred over to me from a colleague of mine in Georgia. I'm like, this is a total long shot. This is never going to work. I know it, but let's try, right? Yeah. So we went in and got the orders granted. I was like, holy, you know what? I can't believe that just happened. I love this judge. And then we got removed to federal court the next day. So we were then asking Judge Saylor to implement those state court orders, which he did. It took a while and it took a path, but it led to our opportunity to get into that facility and discover as much evidence as we could, literally until 5 o'clock on the last day of our inspection, where they declared bankruptcy.
Wow.
So we got all the evidence to get all the other bad guys that were involved and other people who could contribute to the settlement for these families that went through something really horrific. So again, it's just change, right? That's what we want to do. We want to effectuate change. We have the ability as lawyers, we have the opportunity, the privilege, and dare I say, obligation, to do that. Yeah.
So it sounds like, you first met in law school, you had the opportunity to work at the firm. There was definitely then a gap before you started your firm. So how did you stay in touch with one another? What was that relationship building over a number, dare I say, 17 years, was it, before you finally went out and started your own practice? How did you maintain that relationship and finally move towards what you're doing today?
Sure. So both of our practices were national, and Kim and I have always stayed friends since Robinson and Cole. Our kids grew up together. We vacationed together. We just maintained our friendship throughout the years. And as we would travel across the country, we would always end up meeting at a conference together and catching up. And it wasn't until COVID that we were able to be in the same city at the same time, and one of our regulars was every Christmas we would go out and have a liquid lunch and just talk about what our practices were looking like. And finally, COVID, we did this, and it had been a repetitive theme that we're not working for others, not able to have the autonomy that we wanted. We wanted to take on cases that really, sometimes it's not about the bottom line. Sometimes it's about really making change. Maybe it's about stuff you don't get paid for. We wanted to do those cases, and we wanted to work on them the way we wanted to work on them. We wanted to be trauma informed. We wanted everyone to be trauma informed. Most of our clients come to us in awful, awful condition, either emotionally or physically, and being able to treat all of our clients in a trauma-informed way was something that, that we valued very, very much. And there were cases we wanted to take on that our firms at the time were not interested in because they weren't money makers. So we said, they thought they weren't. Yeah, that's true. And so 2020, in the middle of COVID, we said, you know what? F it. Let's do it. Yeah. Do you have any money? No. Do you have any money? Nope. What do we do? So that's how it came to be. I wish we did it earlier, but I wouldn't change a thing right now. And for getting into business with, my best friend, it was kind of a no-brainer because the trust that we have always had in each other just made it easier to start a business.
So at that pivotal moment, and you can add on to that with this, what were the steps that it really took then to transition to go from, being at firms, some are bigger firms, into launching your own practice together?
Well, as Paula said, we made a lot of money for a lot of other people. And we started to recognize that. We weren't seeing the profits. And so we're like, wait, how's this work? And then, of course, it was scary. It was very scary. We both were primary breadwinners for our families. We both had kids that were not, they were young, that still needed a lot of, oversight. They still do, but, and so it was really scary for us to consider doing it, even though we talked about it for like 10 years. But what Paula essentially said at that last, before our JLC Christmas lunch, liquid lunch, whatever it was like, when have we ever failed at anything in our career? Like, yeah, you might lose a thing here and there, but like overall, like, when have we really failed? Like, what? We're not going to fail. Let's just do this. We got to just do this. Like, just rip off the Band-Aid and do it. So we had some colleagues we spoke with about, their law firms and how they started things, and then we just started just from scratch. I mean, we went with SBA. We were like, okay, we have all these hedge funds that want to give us money for 18% interest. Not going to work. Not going to work. So there was a program in one of the universities, local universities, where they worked with you to create your business plan, to help you put your projections together for the bank, and then you go to the banks and you present everything. Our practice is odd. Like, we're not making hourly rates. Like, you have to get the right people to understand and look at projections and what it could be and things like that. So so that was the first bit of like the struggle, was that, making the website, all of that sort of stuff was easy. It's like we knew what we wanted to be to the world, how we wanted to present and things like that. But it was more the financial piece that that gave us the most, fright. But we had cases, clients came with us because we knew they would, we had to give a lot up in our divorces, but it was worth it, right, from our firms, and still pay them some today. But, when your future is going to be good and you're going to have your opportunity, like Paula said, to have the autonomy to take on the cases that you really, truly believe in, and you just are going to believe in yourselves, like, it's going to work out. It happens to work out because you're doing what you love every single day with your best friend.
So it is just 5 years, I believe, correct, that you guys have been doing this work. You have an absolutely remarkable reputation. You've been doing some work with really interesting clients, getting excellent, results that you're going across. You also have a different approach that you were able to do in your own firm, making sure that there's broader accountability, systemic change. Maybe each of you can kind of talk about some of the specific work you're doing and how you do it differently than everyone else, thinking about the trauma-informed responses, thinking about how you can not just have a verdict, but you can also see that go further with the approach that you take with Justice Law Collaborative.
Yeah, all right. So right off the bat, and no offense to law firms that are named after your names, but we really wanted to take the approach that our law firm is not about us. It's about our clients. And so it was a very deliberate naming of Justice Law Collaborative, so that it wasn't our focus. It really was on our interest in our clients, but also, we come from, probably me a little bit more so, but, the generation of projects where there was always that one woman at the table, that token woman at the table. And, we don't like that. And so we got into this, once we got on our feet, our desire to help other women start their own firm. And so we have done that. We will support women, like-minded women, who want to step out on their own. We provide an infrastructure. We may share fees, or however, it's a various financial arrangement. But our goal is, the rising tide lifts all boats. And if there can be more women attorneys who are like-minded, who are trauma-informed, who really want to go the extra mile with your case, it's not always over when you get a verdict or a settlement. There's sometimes laws that need to be changed that Kim will talk about too. But that was our goal, to make sure that there are as many seats at the table as necessary, and it's not based upon tokens.
And my understanding is also it's not just based on location, right? You guys are taking national cases, so these expansions are with like-minded women across the United States and maybe even beyond, correct?
Yeah, we work with an attorney in England. We have an office in LA. We have an attorney in Colorado. So it really is, it's
A collaboration.
a
CUC.
Yeah, and that was really important to us because we knew how scary it was to do all the operational infrastructure stuff. So now we have something that's set up where we've got HR, we've got payroll, we've got a case management system, we have insurance, all of those sort of things that make it scary for people to kind of get into their own practice. So, but that was really important to us to make sure because we saw the struggle. We knew that people struggled. We saw other women who had solo practices kind of struggling just to kind of keep things going. So that was an important piece to it. So, so now
Dive into the specific cases. For any of you people who are listening to that going, I want to do that. I don't want to wait. So do you have any words of advice to the audience for people who might want to make that leap about do it sooner, wait, plan?
Yeah, I mean, I would say if you're really thinking about it, you really need to do it sooner. do it scared. I mean, that's what we did. It's like do it scared because nothing's going to change until you change it. And it's as simple as that. But I mean, it is talk to us, talk to other people who have done it. Get out there and sort of. We've got lots of resources we can share. On we kissed some frogs. We had our experiences. We definitely learned some lessons along the way. We still are, running a business, is different from being a litigator, which was all we ever did, So I don't know if you have anything else to add.
All right, well, I'd love to dive into some of the specific cases that you guys have been working on or have worked on and the impact that they've had and your experience in going through that.
Talk about the Emmys.
Yeah, Paula and I are going to the Emmys on the 26th. One of our cases involved a suicide of Katie Meyer at Stanford University. She was an incredible student, very charismatic, captain of the soccer team, waiting to go to law school at Stanford. Everything was Stanford. She loved it. It was her life. It was her everything. She was an RA. She was a fellow. She, every box that there could be was checked for her. And unfortunately, she didn't get the support mechanisms that she needed from Stanford, and she took her life. And it was a difficult case. Obviously, any type of suicide case is a difficult case, but this one involved what our expert describes as an acute stress reaction based upon the conduct of the university and how it impacted her. There is a documentary. It's called Save, the Katie Meyer story, because she was a goalkeeper. She won the championship for them in 2019. She was all over ESPN with this zip the mouth thing. She's got a meme. If you don't know about it, you should learn about it. But so the documentary is up for an Emmy in Outstanding Sports Journalism. This is just sort of a piece of it, but an Emmy.
I watched.
Did you watch it? Oh. Well, let me just tell you, it's as inspiring as it is heartbreaking. So be ready for that. It's 48 minutes, and it's incredible. It's an incredible watch. But we litigated that case for 4 years, and during the 4-year period of time, at the outset, I spoke with the family, who is incredibly strong. I mean, most parents would want to hole up in their room and never come out again. I mean, she was 22 years old. At the outset, they said, we want to start a foundation. So we're like, okay, we know 503Cs. We can help you get the foundation set up. We, at the time, had a paralegal who actually came to us after graduating. She originally thought she was going to do marketing. So she was really good at making designs. Actually, she designed their logo. So she designed their logo. We helped them set up their 503C. One of our other paralegals helped with their website, getting their website set up. And at the outset, it wasn't just litigation. It was, client-centered advocacy. You follow what they want to do. So we started the foundation. The foundation still exists today. And then the other piece of it was legislation. They said, this can't keep happening. Students need support. Mental health is an issue. We need change. We need to do something to make change. So we drafted Katie Meyer's Law, which now is a law in California that it requires universities to provide support mechanisms to students day one of any difficult, challenging disciplinary process. It requires the universities to pay for independent people or for you to choose your own. So now it's a law that at the end of last year, Rep. Brownlee has presented it nationally. So now there's Katie Meyer's Law that's been presented nationally, which we hope to get through as well. The website has information on it where you guys can go find your reps. There's a sample email. Go send it off. Hopefully we get this law passed federally, because the things that we're seeing after this, like after these, this case, we've been contacted. I cannot tell you how many universities, Duke, Michigan, all of them, right? NYU, for similar institutional failures for students. And so there's really a need for change. There's a need for more support. And so hopefully we can get some more people behind it and get this bill passed federally. And then 8 weeks before trial, we resolved it. And we got change there too. They're implementing Katie Meyer's Law. At Stanford. They retired her number. They started a wellness center in Katie's name. So, it's like those things that you don't normally think you can do, you gotta try. Because you can do more than you really think. Ultimately, it ends up happening that way.
And just to think about cases differently, right? I mean, thinking of a 501c3, how many paralegals are out there designing logos, setting up a nonprofit? I mean, think about the change that can take place in a law firm. They're thinking outside the box, and they're making the reach so much further, and that's what everyone in this room can do. So this is really amazing. So this is a great case on this side, and then do you want to maybe tell us a little bit maybe about IVF or any of the other cases that are
Right, yeah.
your side of the practice?
She's taking on the world. I'm the country here. She's taking on the world.
So I went through IVF, and so I've been in those chat rooms and all of that, and part of that community for a little while, and what has come to pass that we have learned is private equity has overtaken our health system in ways, some good and some very bad. One in particular, which I am litigating class actions all over the country, and actually now in Canada, we may be going to Brazil, India, it's against genetic labs. All of these genetic labs claim to provide this pre-genetic testing to assure all of these folks who want nothing but a baby will pay anything for a baby. And they are pushing a particular test on them, which is thousands of dollars, not covered by insurance because insurance thinks it's experimental. And it doesn't do what they claim it does. There's no scientific support, and actually there's anti-support. It claims it reduces miscarriage, it increases live birth rates, blah, blah, blah. It does just the opposite. But these labs are, sadly, the decisions being made by the labs are being made by JP Morgan's. And there's nothing against private equity because they are doing some good things. But when science is being decided by money people is when we step in. Mm-hmm. And so now we got one lab to stop marketing this test altogether. One of the biggest labs, we got them to stop marketing. So it's about compensating and making right what they're promoting and what they're telling some of our most vulnerable citizens who, obviously would do anything to have a child. If they're told to eat nothing but purple food, that'll give you a baby, they'll clean out their entire kitchen with nothing but eggplant and grapes. And so this predatory marketing of some of our most vulnerable consumers is the cases that Kim and I take on, usually without question. But this hasn't been done before, and so we are treading new water, and so that's what's keeping me busy. Yeah, big defense firms, but we're used to it from Philip Morris and R.J. Reynolds.
So it seems like you guys have a unique ability then to really select your cases, and obviously those two are a little bit different, and maybe you work on them together. How do you go through the process? Because I'm sure everyone's vying for the opportunity, which is a wonderful place to be, right? Clients are, please take my case, but how do you go through the process of determining what is going to be the right fit for your firm?
Ooh, that's tough. Go ahead.
Yeah. I mean, the worst part of our job is having to tell someone we can't help them. I mean, it is. It's the absolute worst because the legal hurdles or whatever else it might be. So, you have to have a few things. You have to have a viable defendant. You have to have a legal cause of action that's, viable. If it's not, you have to change the law so that then it is. So, it's sort of a myriad of things. We have clients, we have both drafted and testified about a bill in Massachusetts that has to pass. It's not just about eliminating the statute of limitations in sexual assault cases, or the governmental notice requirements, because if you don't eliminate that, it's useless. If you have a governmental entity, you still have your 3 years to present. You miss it, you're done. Average age of disclosure of a sexual assault survivor is 52 years.
Yeah.
So, then the other piece is there's caps. So $20,000 since 1976. Because it's charitable to sexually assault a child, apparently. So we are now working on, we've represented people against the Archdiocese. We are involved in the Boy Scout cases. We've had YMCA cases. We've had school cases that all hide behind that. And now we have the hospitals in the Derek Todd case, a rheumatologist who, for decades, who's now just been charged with, 80 counts in Suffolk County? Yeah. And then he's also in other courts, criminal cases against them. How can this state allow these people to get away with it in the institutions to just say you only owe these people $20,000, right? It's outrageous. It's outrageous. So there's multiple bills pending, but there's one that's really it's more comprehensive than all, and Representative Lawn is behind it. He just had an op-ed in the Boston Globe where he was talking about his own sexual abuse and how he's the one who changed the law in 2014. He's behind changing it again. So, anyone who wants to, again, get with your legislators, you should do that because it's really important for all the people in Massachusetts and all of our constituents.
Yeah, I think it's very important that everyone keeps in mind how legislation affects what we can do and are able to do. And a lot of people think, I'm not in politics, that's not my area. Any of your practice areas are affected by that, and you should always be considering what is happening and what opportunities we have to really progress that. Join up with people if you haven't gone through the process before, but think about where we can make that change. We have a few more minutes. I have plenty more questions. I could talk to them all day, but I wanted to open up the floor for anyone out in the audience who has any questions that you'd like to ask these two amazing ladies.
I have a question, you guys, so thank you so much. I feel like we hear a lot of these stories about being brave and betting on yourself, and I've yet to hear the person who said, well, betting on myself was a mistake. The question I have for you is, just from a business, you're lawyers, you're really great lawyers, now you're businesswomen too. What did you learn about being a business leader within the context of being a lawyer that maybe the rest of us could learn from?
I think having to make some really hard decisions. We're faced with one right now. The hard decision of bringing someone on and realizing they're really not a fit for your firm. It's making those hard decisions. I could be a good lawyer, but making those hard decisions, especially knowing that, I mean, we have an amazing team, but we lose sleep every night because they're relying upon us for their welfare, for their family. And those are those hard decisions when you do have to let someone go who just isn't a fit. They didn't do anything wrong. They're just not a fit. I think that kills us, honestly. That really, but you know, our business comes first for the good of the whole community of JLC. I think that is probably one of the things that I struggle with, I think Kim does too, struggle with the most is having to make those tough decisions that could affect someone's livelihood.
What is it you say?
Fire fast, hire slow. We were slow learners to that. You know, just because, like, just in our nature to be compassionate about people, you know, and so, but we have to recognize it's a business, and if it's not good for our business, then we need to make those hard decisions. But yeah, I think that is the hardest part.
We could have time for one more brief question if anyone has a question. And if not, I can follow up. So, you know, you've had 5 years. Oh, go ahead. Gina.
Thank you so much for what you're doing. You're so inspiring. We want to support you and cheer you on. I have a question. If there's one case that you could do or one area that you would love to get into, what would it be? That you haven't
Getting
already.
Trump impeached. I mean, I think that's absolutely 100% true. Because, you know, usually if there's an area we want to get into, we find a way, even if there's challenges and obstacles to it. And then sometimes you have to decide, maybe that wasn't the right decision, and you kind of have to pivot in different ways. But I think for the most part, we usually do take on those cases that nobody else is, you know, willing to or wanting to or too scared to, and so. I don't know. I think we do, right?
Yeah, and I think also we're not afraid of learning a new litigation. So I've never done arbitration before, ever. But now we have a huge mass arbitration case that I love, and you know, and we both love learning new things every day. So it is having our autonomy. You know, we talk and like, well, what should we do? We should absolutely. And sometimes we do pick cases that are not going to resolve, but you know, we piss some people off, and that's the point.
Well, these women are amazing. I think a couple of things you can take away. You don't need to go out and start your own practice. They're talking about leadership. You can be a leader in your firm, so seek out opportunities for that, whether it's in your practice, whether it's legislatively, or think about how you can practice differently. As Kim said, do what's scary. Or I think we also said, you know, the rising tide lifts all boats. So think about what you can do to lift everybody in this room and have that opportunity. Reach out to these amazing individuals with additional questions, and thank you so much for sharing.